You hear the name Nestle, and what do you think of? Probably coffee or chocolate, maybe that slogan, good food, good life. But behind that very familiar brand, the world's largest food company is going through a massive and honestly a pretty painful change. It's a story about incredible innovation, but also about some really difficult world-changing decisions. And right there, that's the heart of the paradox. On one side, you've got this promise of a better life. And on the other, you have this stark, brutal headline about thousands of job cuts. So how can both of these things be true at the exact same time? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack here. All right, so how are we going to make sense of all this? Here's our roadmap. We're going to start by digging right into that paradox. Then we'll pull back the curtain on the AI that's driving this whole transformation. We'll have to face the very real human cost of all this progress. But then we'll also uncover the surprising opportunities that are popping up. And finally, we're going to get super practical with a hiring playbook designed to help you navigate this new world at Nestle. Okay, so let's jump in with that paradox. We all know Nestle. It's a household name, a global institution, really. But behind that brand we all recognize, the company is making some unbelievably hard decisions. This whole restructuring, it forces you to ask a really tough question. What does good food, good life actually mean when you're facing automation and this kind of massive upheaval? I mean, the scale here is it's almost hard to wrap your head around. We're talking about more than 250,000 employees all over the world. They're looking after a portfolio of over 1,900 brands. Think about that. From the Nescafe you might have had this morning to the Purina you feed your pet. This sheer size is exactly why the changes they're making are so significant. So, what's really fascinating here is the why. Why would a company this huge decide to make such a dramatic shift? Well, the answer really boils down to two letters, AI. And this isn't just about cutting costs, not at all. It's about using technology to completely re-engineer the entire business for the future. At the very core of this whole transformation is this idea called predictive maintenance. Now, to put it simply, it's about using AI to fix problems before they even happen. By putting sensors in their factory machines, Nestle can collect a ton of data, let an AI analyze it, and then predict exactly when a piece of equipment is about to fail. And the results? Well, as you can see, they're not just good, they are staggering. We're not talking about little tweaks here. This AI can slash equipment stoppages by up to 50%. It can extend the life of the machinery by up to 40%, and it can cut factory downtime by 15%. These aren't just improvements, this is a complete game changer for efficiency. So, how does it actually work? Well, it's basically a four-step dance. First, you've got sensors that are constantly monitoring everything about a machine. Second, the AI analyzes that flood of data, looking for these tiny little signals a human would probably miss. Third, it predicts a failure. And fourth, a maintenance crew gets sent out to fix the problem proactively, before the production line ever has to stop. It's a fundamental shift from being reactive to being predictive. All right, now we have to talk about the difficult part of this story. Because as efficient as all this new technology is, progress on this scale, it always comes with a cost. And in this case, that cost has a very real human impact. 16,000. This is the number that was in all the headlines. That's how many positions Nestle is planning to eliminate across the globe over the next 2 years as part of this whole restructuring. To put that in perspective, that's about 6% of their entire global workforce. So where are these cuts actually happening? Well, if you look at the numbers, it's pretty clear. The impact is overwhelmingly on white-collar professional roles, 12,000 of them. And that's because AI isn't just for the factory floor anymore. It's automating administrative tasks, data analysis, all those back-office functions at an incredible speed. Another 4,000 roles are in manufacturing and supply chain, which is a direct result of those efficiencies we were just talking about. And these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They represent real places and real people. For example, over in Germany, Nestle is closing 2 plants by 2026, saying it's because of rising costs. The Canal plant, that affects 80 employees, and the Neuss plant affects another 145. These are the faces behind those big headlines. Okay, but here's where the story takes a turn. This massive disruption, it isn't the whole picture. Remember that paradox we started with? While one part of the company is shrinking, another part is focused on building a new kind of culture and attracting a totally different kind of talent. So let's take a look at how Nestle is trying to position itself as a top employer for the future. You see this quote? It's directly from Nestle Germany, and it really says a lot about the culture they're trying to build. The focus is on individuality, on diversity, on inclusion. In their own words, it's about creating a place where you can just be yourself. And it's not just talk, right? They're backing it up with some really tangible benefits that are designed for a modern workforce. We're talking generous vacation and paid family time, flexible ways of working, and a real focus on helping people develop individually. This is their strategy. This is how they plan to attract the talent they need to drive their transformation, even as other jobs are becoming obsolete. Okay, so you've seen the challenges and you've seen the opportunities. Now let's get practical. For those of you who actually see a future here, this is your playbook. Think of it as a step-by-step guide to navigating Nestle's modern hiring process and putting yourself in the absolute best position to succeed. So the whole process is basically a 4-stage journey. It all starts with a tailored application form. If you get past that, you move on to the online assessments, and that's a major filtering stage. Then comes a pre-recorded video interview, and finally, what you might call the final boss of the hiring process, the assessment center. Okay, now listen up, because this second stage is absolutely crucial. They call it the Great Filter for a reason. Up to 80% of candidates don't make it past this point. They're using a whole suite of tests to find the people who can really thrive in this new tech-driven environment. You're going to face things like situational judgment tests to see how you handle complex scenarios at work, and of course, logical and numerical reasoning tests to check out your data literacy. Practicing for these isn't just recommended, it's essential. Now, if you make it to that video interview, here's a tool you absolutely need in your back pocket. It's called the STAR+R method. It's a way to structure your answers to make them super powerful and crystal clear. You describe the situation, the task you had, the action you took, the result you achieved, and this is the key part that most people forget, you reflect on what you learned from the whole experience. And finally, if you make it through all that, you've reached the final stage, the assessment center. This is where they test you in real-world scenarios. You'll have an in-tray exercise to test how you prioritize things, a presentation to show off your communication skills, a group exercise to see how you collaborate, and then a final panel interview. It is designed to see the whole you in action. So, there you have it. The paradox of a company embracing an AI-driven future while navigating a pretty painful present, and the playbook for how you can be a part of that future. The question now, borrowing a line from Nestle themselves, is this: are you ready to be a force for good?